So BC, you were telling us in the last segment, this one-of-a-kind, all states in Nigeria declaring a state of emergency. That's like never been done.
It had never been done on sexual and gender-based violence.
No, for many other things, but sexual and gender-based violence.
Yes.
That's a big statement.
Yes. So at that time, we had federal legislation on GBV, the Violence Against Persons Prohibition law, and states are meant to domesticate it. So at that time, only 13 states had domesticated what we call the VAP Act. And this is starting out of 36. So when the state of emergency was declared, my colleagues, first ladies, they went back to their states to put pressure on their husbands. And those who had not already enacted the laws then started to work with their state house of assembly to get the laws passed. And those who already had laws then started working on pathways to implementation. In the Ekiti state, where we already had most of these things in place, we tried to do even more to get things done. Because at that time, we were still thinking of a sexual assault referral center. We, had all these plans and hadn't really moved on it. So as soon as the state of emergency was declared, we said to ourselves, our governor is the chairman of the forum. And they declared this state of emergency. So we need to be seen to set an example.
And how long was this state of emergency?
Indefinite.
Okay, until something is done.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Okay. So in Ekiti State, we scaled up. We quickly escalated our own programs as well. I'm pleased to tell you, Jackie, that by the end of December 2023, out of the 36 states in Nigeria, we have 35 states who have GBV legislation. Oh. Only one state in Nigeria has not passed the VAP law or we have legislation to protect women from gender-based violence. Only one state in Nigeria. 35 have done it. And that has happened because of the commitment and the doggedness of the Nigerian Governors' Wives Forum. Wow. That came out of the state of emergency declared by the Nigerian Governors Forum. So we had elections last year, and so some governors who were part of that process at the time, their terms have come to an end, and new governors are in place. And so what the Nigerian Governors Wives Forum has done is to provide induction and capacity building for new state first ladies so that they can continue the work. So what I'm doing now is, and I turned 60 last year, and I told myself, okay, there are some things I'm going to do more and some things I'm going to do lesser, right? So when I turned 60 last year, I decided that there were 4 things that I wanted to commit myself to doing. So one of them is coaching. I do a lot of coaching with senior women in leadership on a range of things, on problem solving, on image management and etiquette.
I'm smiling because, so behind the scenes, when we came to interview BC, she said, is this visual, is this audio, is this both? If it's visual, I need to do something. And that was very, in fact, when you came out, I wanted to say, what made that important? Why did you do that?
Because I'm at an age where when you wake up in the morning, there are bags under your eyes and, you look like you just crawled out from under the sheets, which would have been true. And my mom always used to say that you shouldn't go out of the house looking a certain way, and then people will be asking you, hope there's no problem. In my language, they will say, Shekosi, hope there's no problem. So I didn't want, if there's going to be a video, I didn't want your viewers looking like, why is this woman looking, so didn't you say she was a first lady?
I know, right. So, and that makes that especially important for women in leadership then.
Feeling good starts from you, from, how you feel internally. Everybody should determine what that is for them. And then, how you project yourself is extremely important as well. First impressions count. And to whom much is given, much is expected. And if people, if you are in a certain position, people expect that, you comport yourself in a certain way, you look a certain way. It does not mean pretending. No, it does not mean being fake. Be as natural and as normal as possible. But also, you have to, appear the responsible, mature adult everyone assumes that you are, not someone who had to be dragged out of bed with untidy hair, to do an interview. Yes. So you coach them on problems. So I got a problem solving, image management and etiquette. And basically, addressing leadership, challenges to do with, managing their legacies and so on. Because I believe that every woman in leadership has to have a legacy, has to have something and she will be remembered by. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. Not every woman in leadership will pass legislation or build a monument. But even if it is something as modest as just being part of a policy, setting up a creche, or making sure that more women are employed or maternity benefits are in place, there has to be something that you'll be remembered by as a woman in leadership. So coaching is one of the things that I do. Second is speaking. I'm invited to speak to groups of women, groups of young people, groups of politicians, and a whole range of people to share my experiences. And mostly it's around what is going on in our communities around leadership and politics. And then sometimes it's around philanthropy because of the work I've done in philanthropy and civil society, right? So I do a lot of that. And then the third thing I do is around learning. I'm curious about the things, that are happening in the world around me. And so I spend a lot of time online learning and, seeing, what interesting ideas are out there, following trends and so on. I find that extremely affirming. And then writing.
You talked about whispers.
Yes.
First, there were soft whispers. Now it's loud whispers.
No, I've never had soft whispers.
Yes.
Oh. In when I was running the Leadership Institute programs, we were here. Actually, it was here in Entebbe. And one of my colleagues who was on the faculty at the Leadership Institute, she had just got the news that her aunt had passed away. And so I sat there to comfort her and she was there. She was such a wonderful woman. She was so sweet. She was so nice. She never spoke above a whisper. So later on, when I was on my own, I played that back in my mind. She never spoke above a whisper. Now, I fully understand the context in which she used it, because in that part of Africa, women are expected to be soft-spoken and quiet and docile and mostly seen and not heard. I thought to myself, me, Bisi, when I die, I don't want to be remembered as someone who never spoke above a whisper. So when I wrote my autobiography in 2013 for my 50th birthday, I called it Speaking Above a Whisper. And I launched a website in the year 2016 because I wanted to be able to use social media as a tool to engage and with women who were my peers and around, news and, information on the whole range of things. And then I had a weekly column called Loud Whispers. And through that column, I'd write on a whole range of things, mostly essays, but sometimes short stories or poetry. Yes. And so Loud Whispers, every 3 years or so, I publish Loud Whispers as volumes. So Loud Whispers Volume 1 is called Loud Whispers, and that I published in 2017. In 2020, I published Loud Whispers Volume 2, which is called Where is Your Rapper? And the essay I selected to be the title of the book was based on something that happened again in Uganda when I was visiting in the 1990s. The story of a woman who went into labor in the marketplace. And other women, there was no time to take her to the hospital, the baby was coming. And so women in the marketplace rallied down to help her. And those who were not able to do that simply brought out their wrappers and held up their wrappers and surrounded her to protect her. So I wrote an essay on that as a metaphor for solidarity and protecting the dignity of your sisters and empathy and compassion and duty. And it found resonance with people. It went viral. Everyone was talking about it. So when Now This First Volume 2 came out, I gave it the title, Where's Your Rapper? And then Volume 3 was published in 2023, Demand and Supply. Again, inspired by one of the essays I had written around the demand for services around sexual and gender-based violence and the minimal supply of those services. So that then became the title of the book.
Wow, Loud Whispers, that's amazing. Yeah. And as we bring this to a close, where is Bisi going after this? But also, and then what is your, if you were sitting here with your daughters, imagine them, what would you want to tell them?
Okay, so remember I told you that I'm doing a combination of things.
Oh, yes. Okay, what time is making the nan in the writing?
Exactly. So that's where I am now. And in the course of all that, I'm constantly having to share this information with younger people, even my peers. Right? And what I would say is, you are the one who will determine what your journey is like. There will be many obstacles along the way. There will be many challenges. But you need to ask yourself, am I going to allow myself to be overwhelmed by these challenges? Or am I going to figure out how to get around them? Those who have worked with me before, they know me as Madam Plan B. But before you can have a Plan B, what is your Plan A? Yes. Do you have a plan for yourself for the next 5 years, at least? And as you set out for the next 5 years, based on what you've written up for yourself, things might come up as we move from one stage to the other. We are always in transition. Maybe, it's from one job to the other. Maybe it's from being single to being married, or from being married to divorced or widowed or something. So as you set out your plan A, if something happens to deviate and you get deviated from that plan, what is your plan B? Are you going to now sink into despair? Like, oh, because this has happened, life is going to be over for me. What is always have a plan B, a plan C if necessary. The important thing is keep going.
Yeah, I keep going.
Have a plan. Keep going. Be the driver of your own vehicle, of your life's vehicle. That's the first thing. Second, keep learning. When you learn, you grow. And you can learn from anywhere and from anyone. You can learn from observing, from listening, from reading. The moment to stop learning is the moment you are prepared to depart from this world. Nobody knows it all. And you learn from your successes. You learn from your mistakes. You learn from failure. And talking about failure, when things happen to you that look like they are failures or setbacks, it's okay. You learn. I spoke to you about what happened to us in 2014. It was a painful experience. It was totally unexpected. But we learned from it. And what we learned stood us in good stead further down the line. So whatever failure means to you, whether the loss of employment, whether unemployment, or the loss of savings, or something, just know that these are things that happen. You are alive. That is what matters. Keep going. And then it's important for those who are able to do so, read. The world is changing every single day. And there's a sense in which if you want to find your place in the world, especially this for younger people, you have to speak to younger people. The world is beyond the small boxes that we've been socialized, into believing. So even if you don't have the resources to get on a plane, to go to London, to go to the US, go to China, you can get on Google, and instead of Googling the latest fashion and the latest gossip, you can find out, what's happening in other places. There are parts of the world where 4 or 5 years old can do, 4 or 5 year old kids can do amazing things using technology, using computers. We still don't know what AI, artificial intelligence, is going to mean for us, in our private and professional lives on this continent. And then we have 30-year-olds who are saying and doing things that do not make any sense. Something that a 4-year-old or 5-year-old in China has figured out. So we need to read and understand the world around us so that we can get better at, the things we are setting our minds to. Then it's important for us to honor our elders. Everyone will get to be an elder. Yeah. So even if you are young now and you think you know it all, and you think you are the ones who, are in vogue in that, it's absolutely fine. There is no parent who does not want their children to do better than they did. And there's no parent who is, working hard to educate their children and sacrifice for them, who doesn't want their children to find their own place in the world. All they expect in return is your love and your respect. So let us honor our parents, even if we can't visit often, and call and be there for them. And don't wait for a time when something happens, they pass on, and then you spend 5 times the amount of money on their funeral rites than you would have done because when they were alive, they were simply taking care of them. Some people, it's when their parents pass away that they remember that the road to their village is not good. They tar the road, their family compound is not presentable, then they start renovating the family compound. Couldn't you have done all those things when they were alive? So honoring our elders and respecting them is very important because it will be your turn. And when it is your turn, then your children will honor you too. So, and then invest wisely. And I will always speak about the 3 L's. Invest in land. And when I mean land, and I might not mean land literally, but assets that yield, assets that yield something significant for us. So it could be a building, it could be land, it could be a farm, something. But a car is not the kind of investment I'm talking about. I'm not talking about a wig. I'm not talking about plastic surgery. I'm not talking about a Rolex wristwatch. Invest in things that are significant, that will yield something for you 10, 15 years down the line. Invest in linkages, networks, relationships, who can help you move from one point to the other. Who are your friends, or, your real friends, not, fair weather, not fair weather people. And then also I've spoken about land linkages, and learning. As I was saying earlier on, yes, we learn every single day of our lives, and the moment we stop learning, then nothing, we're going into that. Exactly, that's when you're ready to go. Right. Yeah. And then it could be doing a short course, doing a degree, acquiring a skill. There should always be something new we are prepared to learn. Yeah.
Finally, a note on menopause. Because it is a transition that women go through, among many other transitions from work, from being a mom to a grandma, there's that one also. And what would you advise women?
I would advise women that it's something to expect. It's something that all women will have to go through. And the symptoms of menopause will differ from one person to the other. So women are lucky, they have very few menopausal symptoms. And then there are some who have a really difficult time, with, heat waves and, memory, issues, and they get easily irritable, and something. So it all depends. And maybe our female ancestors had ways of dealing, with these things. But unfortunately, maybe because those things were not understood, those were the times when they would accuse older women of all kinds of things. Because if you are of a certain age and you're feeling uncomfortable and you don't have a fan to cool you down, you take off your clothes. You take off your clothes, or you don't take off, you're just generally irritable, and people are bringing all kinds of nonsense to your attention. You just don't want to be around anyone, just want to be left alone. That's when they start calling you names. They start calling you difficult and witch and cantankerous and so on. So I think men should just understand that it's something normal, and it's something to be celebrated, because the way the world used to work for African women before it became clouded with Western understandings of aging and what that is supposed to mean and so on. African women always look forward to being elders, because when you are an elder as an African woman, that is when you earn respect. That is when people defer to your age. They respect your white hair. There is a lot of white hair here. And that is the time when you get celebrated as someone who has made significant contributions to the community. So why would I not want to celebrate being this age I am? I have no desire to pretend to be a 20-something-year-old or a 30-something-year-old. When I dress, for example, I dress primarily for comfort. And then appropriateness. Okay, what you're putting on is appropriate for this event and so on. At my age, why should I want to squeeze myself into a dress that's meant for a 20-year-old or a 30-year-old? And also in a way where things are hanging out, providing too much information. Why? Because there was a time when I was having this conversation with some of my young aides, and they'll say, Mommy, why don't you, this dress, it's a bit loose here, so why don't we put it in so that everybody can see your waist? Or why don't we just lift things up here? And I say, to do what? Am I marketing anything? What for? So you want me to now sit down? And then when I'm sitting down, my back, of course, I always like to do in public, or I always have to sit straight and everything. But there are some sisters, because they have that 2-3 girdles on at a time, one for the hips and one for the waist and one for the bust. So they sit down and they can't even eat. Why? Yes. I don't mind wearing the odd girdle if, it's absolutely important to do so. But for goodness sake, too, life is too short. Yes. So aging is to be celebrated. Being an elder is to be celebrated. And let the 20-something-year-olds and 30-something-year-olds enjoy their youth. And anyone who has anything to say about it should just wait. And that's where we'll close it off for today, BC. Thank you so much for your wisdom and for your legacy. We truly celebrate you. And for our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, when we bring you another guest, another episode, thank you so much for listening to us. Bye.